Hey folks, this is Ben Gessel. This is kind of part two of just some thoughts I have tonight. And, I thought about all these, whenever I get to, trying to address specific foods and things and its effect on myself and other people, I've always wanted to do videos where I get really deep into specific foods. And I still might in the future. It is a hobby of mine. Seriously, it is. But, it just is until I get more really specific, I don't know how many people are interested in this. Maybe probably a fair amount. It's just that you know whether you're talking about celery or carrots or Brussels sprouts or cabbage or broccoli or cauliflower or tomatoes, it really when talking about vegetables, it really doesn't matter what they are. I mean, you have like hot peppers and onions, of course, too, that have some unique qualities, but every vegetable is going to make you kind of chill out of it, whether it's a cooked or raw vegetable. And when I say chill out, I mean every vegetable will help you calm down and just kind of think more rationally. Really, really. And I don't know if I'd say that all vegetables are yin type foods, but they tend to be, I think, a bit more that direction. But not necessarily. You have some yang vegetables and yin vegetables, but the vegetables are not. They don't make you intense. They're not in. They're not. They don't promote intensity. They promote, um, being very, yeah, just even tempered. Um, I notice that all the time. See, this is why when you eat vegetables with meat, because meat kind of balances it out. Meat provides that intensity in so many different forms. That energy, but it's energy because anything involving sugar, like fruits and stuff, but fruits have the fiber and everything, so fruits are always better than other stuff that's just. But when you have a lot of fruit and you have a little bit of a sugar boost, it makes you more alert and it makes you quicker, and it just kind of you know it kind of picks up your mood a little bit. But if it's simple sugars, you can really have that mood drop as well at some point, which is why you have these carb addictions or sugar addictions. You just always need more to keep the euphoria going. But with fruit, the fiber kind of helps the sugar, fructose, not be absorbed as quickly, right? Um, but there's a kind of a feeling you have with carbs, which is different than, of course, with meat. And with meat, um, it um, it's the stuff that or I think it definitely promotes manly, things, qualities, sure. Um, eggs, fish, poultry, meat. Um, but so do vegetables in their sphere. They need that balance in a way. But uh, anyway, um, it's very easy to, there's other kinds of things that all the animal foods kind of boost as far as your overall contentment, because you're going to be satiated. You're definitely not going to be hungry if you have animal proteins. That's for sure. And if you go for long periods without animal proteins or if you become vegan, that's also you're gonna change, physically, for sure. Um, I guess a really restricted diet would be if you just had vegetables and water. I mean, I don't know if anybody does that, you know, but um, vegetables help tone down the carb intensity of fruits and maybe the sweeter grains, a lot of stuff. And then also vegetables help tone down some of the um, we'll just say the greasy or the somewhat more unhealthy aspects of meat, the aggression or whatever else sometimes is um, amplified by animal products, hormonal stuff. So, and then the other guys are kind of, I find, like nuts and beans, and kind of like a nice, for me, they're my grain substitutes, nuts and beans and stuff. And um, they just kind of provide you with some fuel for the day without it being, animal protein, which is nice. Um, and they're very handy, very, at least, nuts and seeds and stuff. Sometimes I think it's, when you, I don't, I just never eat cheese. Cheese is something I probably could eat. It's no big deal. Dairy in general is fine, so long as it's not well, yeah, dairy in general is just fine. Um, but there's other reasons why I don't have dairy. It makes me very silly if I have a bunch of caffeine. Sorry, casein. It's casein. Enough of that in my system, I just get a little silly and lightheaded. It's not a huge deal, but it's not the best stuff for me. But it's just a question of how well you can digest the stuff. So like enzymes and stuff. Anyway, and then that's why also part of the reason I don't have gluten, because it's the same deal as casein, and I probably have more gluten than I have casein, but just very small amounts of it comparatively. Or sometimes a lot of days just none at all, no gluten. It's generally it's often no gluten, to be honest, most days. And then but it's not strictly, I'm not strictly, no gluten. And then but I was going to mention that most Americans will still have some kind of cereal or eggs, something like that. Toast, butter in the morning. A lot of Americans will. Something like that. Some bacon, maybe. Uh, Juice, right? Orange juice. Right? And that's just tradition we get from, well, kind of from England, really, to be honest. But I'm sure the countries nearby as well, somewhat. And then, most Americans will have for lunch some kind of sandwich, right? Yeah. Sandwich will have bread, and you'll have something in the middle that's pretty varies, but it could be like, ham, turkey, could be tuna fish, it could be peanut butter jelly, it could be other kinds of cold cuts, perhaps, and mayonnaise, whatever, mustard, and then or whatever. Um, Carrot sticks, celery, soup. But there's some cheese, right? That cheese comes up again from Europe and stuff a lot of times. And then, or fruit or something. Fruit, bananas for breakfast, or whatever. And so then we eventually get to dinner, and we have some kind of vegetables and potato and meat, or, meatloaf or something. This is a very, along with milk and water throughout the day, this is a very standard American diet kind of thing. And most folks still kind of eat this way. And it's just, there's no issues so long, but sometimes things come along where some of us need to kind of change up the system a little bit. And someone might ask, do I ever miss eating bread, like regularly? Do I miss eating bread? And I remember, white bread tastes great. Oh man, I love the taste of hot buttered rolls that are just, garlic bread. I like I like the softer part. But the crunchy stuff is fine too. It tastes great, but it's like there's that thing in your brain that says, "Oh, I like the way that white bread just the texture of it is very smooth." And then there's kind of this also part of my brain that's just like, oh, it does kind of give me that euphoria, right? That euphoria is mostly more of a carb euphoria. There's kind of a gluten euphoria of sorts, I suppose, with the gumminess of it. I don't know if you guys have heard of this, but you eat a bunch of saltines or anything with a lot of gluten, and you chew it up in your mouth, and you know whatever, and you but you don't swallow, and you just get this big gob in your mouth of like nice, awesome, salty goodness, like from saltines. you know, I used to see how many saltines I could eat, but I could put in my mouth and just love the salty, gluteny goodness. And my mom loves crackers and stuff too. It's just it's kind of a little bit of a distortion, you know? And I've realized that if you really get into that too much, and um, so bread, crackers, I just don't eat crackers. Love rolls. I just don't buy them. I don't always eat them. And then toast, I don't buy toast. I don't make toast. Butter, I just use ghee butter on occasion for cooking things. But ghee butter is all honestly sometimes I prefer extra virgin olive oil, first cold pressed from one country of origin. Even I don't know, a lot of times because it's just more of a neutral flavor, I suppose. Or it goes better with a lot of stuff, more so than ghee butter perhaps. But I mean, where was I here? Oh yeah, mashed potatoes. Potatoes honestly are a filler food. They're a fuel food that is really dirt cheap and like bread, and you don't miss it. like you just, who would miss potatoes? I don't miss eating potatoes. Really. So the bread and potato stuff, we eat it because it's cheap and it's kind of filling, but both foods can spike your blood sugar, if, especially if like diabetes and stuff. And it's just, uh, but this spike your sugar a little bit anyway, you know. But and then you have, at least at some level, we spike it, and then you have like rice. I don't miss eating rice at all. Rice is practically flavorless. Um, and a lot of grains are like that. Who I just there's no grain that I miss eating. I remember eating with cereal. I loved all the cereals I had when I was younger, but it was never really the sort of thing that. I guess you had, stuff like cinnamon toast crunch, and you had, um, honeycomb and stuff. And sure, yeah, sure. But it's stuff that you can live without. You can live without that stuff, I think, I found. And then I don't miss, what else? Yeah. The fried chicken thing. So, fried foods in general are not so great for me. Not great for anybody, but it kind of is like a question of how often you eat it, and how much you have it at one time. Also, with regard to fried chicken. And it's always the chicken itself that's healthier than all the breading that's all fried. So, but I don't bother with fried chicken much anymore. But I might have it on occasion. I wouldn't rule it out entirely. I just and then I don't know, cakes and pies and donuts and all that stuff. I just don't eat it. None of that stuff. No pastries. Um, so there's a question of like, do I feel less patriotic for having less, Americana food? I still, I don't know. No, being a patriotic doesn't. It's not a question of what you're eating. I'll still eat a hot dog, but maybe not with the bun. Sometimes maybe with the bun, but often not with the bun. But it's hamburger or whatever. You don't have to eat American food to be patriotic. A true red-blooded American. But I don't know. You know, um, it really is just about my diet's like just having regular, real food. That's you're watching your sugar and you're getting a lot of fiber. You're getting a lot of different kinds of fats and some complete proteins every day. You know, some way, shape, or form. I could go a day or two certainly without any animal protein, maybe longer. But um, the question is how much do I actually want to have a diet that's like Gandhi? Gandhi ate nothing. This is Mohandas Gandhi in India. When he got older, he ate nothing but lentils, and not too many of them. You know, really like a handful of lentils a day, and he was bone thin. You guys remember how skinny he was, and he had certain reasons why he did that. He wasn't all that old when he ate that way, but he's getting up there a little bit. But I mean, he did. He had that kind of diet for a long time. I think before he died, as far as I know. Well, he didn't eat that way as a young man, but anyway, what you sacrifice when you have that kind of diet is you sacrifice having big muscles. Of course, you cannot have big muscles. Eating just a handful of lentils a day that just doesn't work. Right? You sacrifice muscles. You sacrifice having that kind of real athletic energy, um, and you just kind of look like a skeleton. You know, kind of. But you eat enough to like at least nourish yourself. And I'm sure you had water, but what do you gain? Well, you gain longevity because the less people eat, the longer people are going to live. If you're eating a ton of food, so I won't name somebody that I know that had a problem with this, but you have people on YouTube that it's not even just the guys that eat just the meat and cheese, and these guys make huge things that they put in the oven. And it's not just those guys, the bacon, beef, and cheese fiends, but it's just there's a lot of how to put this. Gluttons don't really live past 70. If they do, they have incredible genes. I don't know, but it's because it takes a lot out of the body to digest food. That and the more calories, more you're consuming very dense calories, right? It just kind of wears out the body a little faster over time, over a long time, of course. And so if you're having a lot of vegetables, and mostly vegetables, and a little bit of fruit, a little bit of other plant foods, and a smidgen of animal proteins, it makes perfect sense to me that you're going to live a long, long, long time. You just will. But there's always the question of is longevity is that the end all be all of ideal human health? Because there's always different dimensions to human health, and you guys know what they are. But there's always it's like, where do you draw the line between physical health and spiritual health and emotional health and social health and psychological health and emotional health and all that stuff, mental health. It's very, very blurry. But if you're talking about just physical health, there's everything from physical strength and speed to cardiovascular health and endurance, strength wise, and also cardio wise. And also there's flexibility, and then there's balance. There's how well your five senses are doing. Can you taste well? Can you, sense of touch? How your blood vessels? Uh, how's your mental alertness? Mental focus and all these different mental things, right? There's, do you have all the nutrients you need, or at least the ones you absolutely need, and how you're doing on different levels of nutrients, and enzymes, and all the stuff in your gut, and all that stuff that helps, and if you're eating all these healthy foods, they'll help you overall with everything, you know. And then, um, so there's a lot of different, so many different sides to human health that I think a lot of folks that I've watched on YouTube, some more comedic than others, but even some nutritionists don't always. It's hard to get the full spectrum of what ideal human health really means when you can say so much and research so much about specific areas of human health. It's easy to get distorted, so easy to get distorted. Um, but ideal human health, truly honestly, is when all of these things are at their peak condition. You might think, oh, this is when you're in the prime of your life. So maybe it's not necessarily that everything is in their peak condition, but what it is um, you're thriving because you're making all the right choices about what affects your body. Um, and and that means, you know, you're aware of, in general, you're aware of what kinds of nutrients are in foods. You don't have to have super specific awareness of everything like that, but you're getting a lot of that. You're getting enough of that to nourish your body, but you're not overeating also, and you're you know you're getting exercise. You're getting regular sleep. Your moods are pretty stable, um, and you feel good. It's a good feeling. Uh, you feel like you have the energy to do things in the day, and if you get sometimes you feel more fatigued for whatever reason, or sometimes like elderly folks probably will have less energy. So ideal human health, it might mean sometimes different things depending on one's um, we'll just say physical age, or the old folks just can't run like younger folks, but as you get older, if you can still have a sharp mind, that's a sign of being healthy, right? If your mind is slipping, that's also genetic. It's not always, but it's just we want to preserve those things as much as possible the older we get. And so spices, great, herbs. Everybody talks, this is, you know, cinnamon and things like cinnamon, ginger, and um, a lot of very potent. I always were potent plant foods, spices and herbs really, really help you out longevity wise and mentally. Blueberries and stuff. It's great stuff, right? But just so good for the body. But um, anyway, so but I kid you not, as you guys know, I don't know if you guys always watch certain channels like this. Sometimes people say some of the kookiest things. You hear some really nutty things. And usually if it sounds nutty or kooky health wise, um, it's because somebody's kind of dwelling on only some aspects of human health over others. Um, and somebody's just got this, you know, idea that they think is. Everybody's a little different this way, I suppose. But it's just. Um, I really think it's truly interesting when you have breakthroughs in the healthfulness of certain foods that we didn't really know before. And it's like if you find that you've um, have been eating these foods all the time, and they have added benefits that you didn't even know about. We didn't even know about. It's often kind of like, whoa, awesome! I've been doing the right stuff. And if it's a food that you hate, like yeah, it's ugh, you know. A lot of people don't realize, though, um, it might seem like we're talking about some very light matters, but when I imagine when I get to 70 or 80 years old, a lot of this stuff might seem like a bigger deal because I want to live a little longer. I'm not there yet, of course, not for a long, long time. But I can just imagine being at that age and being like, oh man, I have really, really got to, you know, whatever, you know. I'm not saying just having just a total vegetable diet. I'm just saying, you know, it just becomes about longevity at that point. A lot of times, maybe some things that you can still have, you can still have, that affect too much of it. But and then a lot of people forget that food is just it's a part of life, but it's not. It's just so many other things about life, and I've realized that because sugar and being addicted to sugar, uh, it can be kind of a distraction for many people. It, this I don't know if this gets into more sensitive terrain, but um, when a person is freer from food cravings, um, it's easier to kind of over time. I think some things that set in more than others, but it's easier to um, kind of see things as they are. Kind of, it's like you're taking your blinders off a little bit. Sugar is kind of a blinder of sorts. And whereas before, if someone was eating a lot of sugar to kind of deal with whatever, when that goes away, uh, you find that there's other things to kind of take its place. And it's a bit of a struggle for a while. It can be. But then, I mean, in my case, I found the way my mind is, my imagination is priceless. I mean, everybody's is, but I'm like, this is one of the strongest weapons I have in life regarding anything. And I can handle so many things in life better just because of my imagination and my strong mental abilities. I have a strong mind. And there's other things that help too. Um, you know, but can you imagine? Most people on these health channels don't talk about this stuff. Really, they don't, and they're kind of obsessed with. Yeah, I definitely mentioned this more than several times, so you've heard it all before about these food groups being better than the other, or whatever. It's so stupid. It really is stupid because we all ought to know that the foundation for good health involves things like produce, right? And then your nuts and beans and whatever. And then some animal food if you want after that. And it's kind of in that order along with water. And if you have more specific diets that's out there, that's great too. You know, but but you don't. How often do you hear people? I mean, really getting into this stuff. Channels that have hundreds of thousands of subscribers or more, millions of subscribers. I don't know. Because the reason people don't talk about this stuff is because it's not comfortable to talk about it. So sometimes I talk about uncomfortable things on my channel. Most of the time I don't. But when I talk about something that's more uncomfortable, perhaps I try to say it in such a way that I'm like, well, we're all human. We all are subject to these things in life. And let's just all acknowledge the fact that we're all in the same boat kind of thing. Rather than, oh, you shameful, guilty person, for eating a Twinkie, man. It's like, I probably wouldn't eat a Twinkie, but if I did, I'd probably only have half of it, and I don't know, have some Brussels sprouts right after. I don't know. Anyway, you guys leave me thoughts and comments below. I'll catch you guys later. Take care. Bye.